Welcome to Akasha Talks, a podcast on consciousness, healing, and different ways to interact and weave those together, both old and new, to be able to get the most out of your life. I'm your host, Lance Baker, coming to you from Newcastle, Australia. Hope you kick back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome, Mandy Wilde. How are you this afternoon?
I am well. How are you, Lance?
Great, thanks. A little bit earlier for me, but that's all good.
It is. Wow. I know. Thanks for meeting me at your coffee hour.
Yes, I gave up coffee a few years ago, so that's easy enough for me.
Good, good.
Now, I found you right after I did the Jack Grail episode. You liked that episode, and I don't normally click through when people like my episode, but something tapped me on the shoulder and said click through, and and since then I've like joined in on a bunch of your new moon, full moon, Hekate rituals, which have been great. I've enjoyed those.
Thank you.
I've liked watching your work, and I've had in my mind to have a medium on for a while. So welcome.
Here I am. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm going to butcher describing what you do. So do you want to tell everybody the elevator pitch of what it is that you do?
Sure thing. First off, love what you do, and I found you through the the uh, the lecture that you did, or excuse the lecture, where my mind is, the interview you did with Jack Grail. He had posted it, and I was like, "This is great," and so that was how I found you. So I'm glad it was a mutual connection there. It was my little spirit going, "Hey, I'm clicking on." No. But my name is Mandy Wilde. I'm also known as the Wilde Medium. For those of you who are on social media, you can find me on all the platforms under Wilde Medium. But I am, as the name suggests, a medium. I also am an astrologer and a longtime devotee of Hekate. I'm the founder of Nomine Hekate, which is a bi-monthly live stream that I host, and it gathers both in the full under the full moon and the dark moon each month. And that my goal for that space is to have a very warm place for people to connect spiritually, right? And like express their gratitude to Akate. And if they don't already know Akate, it is a welcoming environment, so they can come in and check it out for themselves. But it is an open door, um, for anyone who's curious. But I like to keep the conversation in that space very accessible, in practice. Just so if anyone's interested, they can see just how easy it is to have a relationship with a deity. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I personally love the format of it. You do generally like a lecture about an epithet of Hecate, and then jump into a way to use that energy. Right now, it's educational and experiential, and as you know, since we found each other through Jack, that it's got that PGM vibe, which is certainly my jam.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I always open with a little lecture about Akate and one of her epithets, and then for the full moon, do like a meditation and a little ritual with that. And on the new moon, we go into having like a communal dipnon with everyone. I hold up my offerings. We talk about what a dipnon is, and we do a petition to Akate for her good graces in the upcoming lunar month. Um, and you mentioned PGM. I am in my own praxis, in my own work. I am the sorcerer of the PGM. I like to work with those texts as living practices for sure. I there it's good. There's good meat. There's good meat in this book. Good meat.
That looks like a well-read book.
It is.
Well, for people that are interested in that part of the conversation, they're going to have to wait because I'd like to go back a little bit first before that meaty text helped shape your praxis of, well, how did this sort of stuff start for you, the intuitive gifts, mediumship? When did
Oh, good question. Yeah. So as far as mediumship goes, and I didn't know, of course, what that was at a young age. Um, I I remember being around 5, maybe 6 years old when I saw or remember seeing my very first spirit. Um, it is not something that I feel runs like deep in my family. My sister has some gifts; she's just chosen not to really work with them. But I was raised in an extremely religious household, United Pentecostal. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not.
not that specific one, but
Snake
Pentecostal? Yeah.
handling.
Yeah,
Snake
yeah, of course.
handling. Yes, I come from the tent revival, uh, United Pentecostals holding snakes. Yeah, for real. Speaking in tongues. But before I get into that, yes, I was very young when I remember seeing my first spirit. And um, as a United Pentecostal, the sect that my parents were a part of, we were not. It was frowned upon if you had like a Christmas tree or anything like that. So as worshiping false idols, that sort of thing. And I remember it was around, I think, 5, 6 years old. My parents got our first Christmas tree, and it was a secret. We were having to hide it from our relatives because they were all Pentecostal as well. We were having to hide it from the church. Um, and I remember my mother saying, "Now, if we put this up now, you're not allowed to sneak out of bed and just hang out in the living room all night." Okay, okay. Well, of course, I was naughty, and I got up to go take a peek in the middle of the night. And I remember walking down the hall, and I like looked in my sister's room. She had her little crib. She was asleep. I walked sneaking past my parents' room so I'd not to wake them. And I got to the living room, and it was just this beautiful lit up tree. And I remember staring at it and going, and there's a man standing in front of the tree. And I thought, that's what people are talking about when they say Santa Claus. You put up a tree and the Santa man comes. Well, I waved, and this man that was kind of undefined in features, tall, kind of mustardy, brownish, dark, hazy, turned to look at me and then just went back and kind of stared up like he was looking toward the tree area. So I ran and got my parents, and I said, Santa came. Santa's in the living room. And they're like so upset. Like, what are you doing out of bed? And I said, no, there's a man in the living room. And my dad got his baseball bat and ran in there. And he's like looking, and he's like, what are you talking about? Where's, and I'm like, well, he's right there. Um, very upset. They sent me back to bed, unplugged the Christmas tree lights, never to come on again. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was then that I recall I started seeing uh, spirits, so to speak. That evolved into, later, um, I, my great aunts, my great great aunts, my great grandmothers appearing, um, usually next to my mother while she's in the kitchen. And I would say things like, that woman is watching you make, whatever it was she was making. If she was making iced tea or a dish, she's like, that woman is watching you make that. And my mom would get very upset and uneasy. Um, anyway, I learned at an early age that you don't talk about those things. Now, growing up in a United Pentecostal church, there is speaking in tongues as well. And we were taught that you don't get to heaven unless you can speak in tongues, right? And so I'm watching these people like, I need to do this, or I can't get to heaven. Yet they're speaking this other language, and I'm watching like clouds of different spirit and manifestations of just kind of like gunk kind of hanging around. And it was very confusing to me because I was like, why is this okay? But when I see
Mm.
these, older women, which I had later come to find out they were my great great grandmother and my great great aunt and my great aunt, um, why was that wrong? You know? Uh, and so I learned to be very quiet about it. And hence I developed a severe anxiety disorder when I was in middle school. Um, so those of you that have children out there that are seeing things, don't squash those visions.
No.
It causes great anxiety as the child ages. But yeah, that's pretty much how it started with that one spirit, which I never found out who it was because I was too young to even question that. But it turning into, being able to see my past loved ones that were on the other side that I had never met before, but was able to confirm through photographs and describing uh, their features to my mother, to my father. Again, them saying, "Don't talk about that. Don't say that to just anyone." So, and here I am with a career in it, saying it to everyone.
Yes. Well, that doesn't sound like it was actually Santa. I'm pretty sure.
Definitely not Santa. Definitely not Santa. Probably an apartment spirit.
Yes. I'm curious with like growing up with the talking in tongues and doing mediumship.
Mhm.
Have you ever like been involved with channeling based things where yeah.
Oh yeah, I actually think because I was actually able to speak in tongues, I think that exercising that muscle was what helped open the way to channeling uh, spirits. Which I do want to say caveat with this. I, I go on record. It's not maybe the healthiest thing to do. There are a lot of boundaries that I think someone needs to have in place before doing something like that.
Mm.
But absolutely, I think the speaking in tongues helped massage and uh, strengthen that muscle of being able to channel certain spirits, to channel certain um, entities, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, it
Yeah,
takes a lot to
come
relax that muscle
comes to
through.
do you relax that muscle? I mean, we all have this ability. We all have it.
Mm.
I think it looks very different for all of us and people. I try to have them when they ask about it to be very gentle and lenient with themselves because people hold being able to see things, to having some sort of clairvoyance or clairaudience, or even to be able to channel, a spirit is like this is very easy. It's not very easy, and it is at the same time, but it looks really different to everyone. Where I might see someone's features, someone else just might get like a knowing, and they might not see anything at all, but they're just able to kind of like regurgitate what it is that they're saying. Like this person has blue eyes and they're 6 feet tall and whatever it is. That, like I always tell people, trust your intuition because you might not be seeing something necessarily, but there is a knowing that we all have that is able to be translated and transmuted somehow.
Yes. Yeah, that was a big block for me for ages. I'm not visual, and I was like, well, that stuff doesn't work for me. And it took me a while to understand things happen in different ways for different people. Uh,
They
you
do.
get the
I'm glad that
confirmations when you play and test.
you do. Yeah, I'm glad you found that. I'm glad you trusted the timing on it, and you had patience with yourself to to be able to experience it because how we experience things. I mean, people have, experiences that I've never had myself. And rather than being like, oh, I wish that I could do that, I'm very grateful for the the limited sources that I do have because you're able to, once you recognize what those are, you're able to cultivate that and to really nourish it and to grow those powers that be.
Mm. And so what happened to wake that up of getting over the anxiety and the keeping this in the back pocket and not talking about it to being the Wilde Medium?
I I think discovering witchcraft. I
Yeah.
think, finding my people, my tribes throughout the ages. I was gifted, my first tarot deck, maybe ninth grade or early on, and I thought, I was like, what is this? Like, this is so spooky and very interesting to me. But I think just finding that there were people like me, still being very silent in that regard, but watching other people really own those aspects of themselves. Um, I really admired that and really wanted to try to be that myself. And so I had to break, of course, these layers off of me. Um, which I believe 1,000% that Akate was with me back then, even though I didn't know necessarily, what that relationship was. Talking about in high school here, um, I don't know are- how what I can share on your podcast. Can it be kind of
Anything you like.
like sensitive subjects are okay?
That will be okay if people have got a heads up that that's it. There was something sensitive I was going to bring up later anyway. So
Okay.
go
Hey,
for
trigger warning, everyone. If this this has to do with sexual abuse, so if that is triggering to anyone, you might want to mute for just a few minutes here. Um, I am a survivor of incest abuse, and my abuser, who is no longer on this in this realm, um, I think that had a lot also to do. I tried to find, and it is very hard in this type of that type of trauma, right? To find some sort of good from it. But I think that also helped me with honing in my my intuition and those spidey senses, right? We all have those. So I think having that experience, as awful as it was and for as long as it was, really did help me start that internal work while I was still in this kind of like captivity, this catatonic, like socially catatonic state as a young child and young adult. All right, trigger warning over with. uh, but yeah, I think Akate was with me through that. I think Akate was with me when I was finding my tribe in high school and beyond, learning that there were ways that people communicated with spirits through like divinatory tools like the tarot or like the pendulum, right? And I was able to start to incorporate those, and then it started to re-enliven that with me, and it opened up a whole world of other other entities out there, other divine entities. Um, of course, learning, the hard way, as a lot of us do, getting our hands really dirty with maybe mixing with spirits that don't have our best interests at heart. But yeah, I've always been one to kind of like dive into something head first. Maybe landing in cement, sometimes landing in water, probably mostly landing in cement and having to heal from it. But uh, yeah, I think finding my tribe, finding different tools early on, uh, finding literature that helped support what it was that I was maybe feeling as well and experiencing.
Yeah. For anybody that was slightly triggered by that bit of the story, yesterday I actually did your Hekate Azostos lecture that you've got up on Miskatonic, and
Oh,
that was great for processing stuff like that. I work with a lot of people who have been through that sort of abuse, and I found that was a nice, subtle ritual to release and separate some of that stuff without it being too heavy. So that,
Thank you.
you've already got a resource there for somebody if they're feeling that too much. I liked the way that was all framed and set up, and the feeling of that ritual.
Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it.
Mm. I also found it
Really
quite
appreciate
interesting of the sensory sensations with the salt water as part of it, that like was burning me when I put it on. It was like I was putting deep heat on. I'm like, this is just salt water. That does not have that effect. This is great. That was a great confirmation that connection had been there and been doing its job to separate some stuff.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm thrilled to hear you say that. Thank you so much. That um it- for those who I'm assuming those who come to your podcast know, of Akate, but who is Akate, in the broad form, just for those who are coming in, like she's this ancient goddess, right, of the thresholds, right? And so where there's like any sort of crossing that we have naturally in life, like a birth, a death, any decisions that we make, which come on, are all the time, right? Like that is Akate. Doorways, like from here to there, the breath that we take in, the breath that we take out, like the pauses between our words, like she is the liminal spaces, and that guardian of movement between these like states of being, right? And that that you know I think I addressed this in the lecture, but and I've said this many times in my Nomine Akate gatherings, but uh I heard people say, "Oh, Akate is, just when we're having those transitional moments," and like that's all of life, right? Like that's all of life. That's happening. It's those tiny moments of of uncertainty and certainty that are constantly like in flux, right? So, and bless those who don't have that. Like I always want to like shout out to those people who are in a very steady path this lifetime. There is, it's not my path this lifetime, but for those that are on like a very steady path, like I will have one, and probably have had many like that. I commend you because we don't know what those people have gone through before this lifetime. This might be a resting lifetime, and we don't know what their next lifetime will be. It might be something that they will need to have conserved and built their energy and their tools and their rest in this particular lifetime. But Akate for me is, for this lifetime, a constant like change, constant liminality. Uh, Learning new things about myself and others and the world that we're in. I mean, what we're going through right now here in the world, and in the US and in particular, and across the sea, like we are in a constant state of like what's going on, which led me to write the lecture Azostos. That comes from a small portion of a larger work that I'm also in the process of writing as well. Hopefully, 2026 will see the fruition of that. But yeah, she's she's the power that I found, that I didn't know I had found when I was going through those traumatic things early on in my life. And when it really clicked, I think with Akate, was uh, probably in my college years. And I we see her in like Blake's art, right? Like the depictions of Akate in Blake. You see her in like literature, of course, like Macbeth. We see her like in other literary works, but not a lot. And so when I started kind of like associating this kind of this draw toward um uh needing some like okay, I've got here, I got to this point now. Now what, like what is next, and what does that entail, and what do I need to have in order to make this next like step in my life? um i was I was like a junkie with that, and I still am. I always have been like this junkie to get to, like, okay, I've got this, like now, like how do I grow on that, and what do I need to cultivate in order to get to this like this thing right here, whatever it is. And I realized like, wait, this is this like this is this current that is indescribable. And I had kept hearing like Akate come up in like my friendship circles, my more magical circles, and it kind of clicked at the time. But it was when my dog, who was a black pug, um was barking at a toad or a frog or something. And I had this like epiphany all of a sudden, like everything just kind of like rushed in. I was like, oh my gosh, I is this current that has just always been around me been a kate? And so I went to go, try to research anything I could. But back then there was not a lot on the internet. There wasn't, which was also really great because I was able to explore this very ambiguous like current that I was experiencing and wanting to explore more on by myself, and like create a relationship to Akate myself. And like that I always like want to stress to people, like you don't need the this and the that and the thing and the whatever. What does it mean to you? And like create this relationship yourself, like because like Lance, like you're in my relationship, like we're starting this right now, but it might look very different than like yours and someone else's, or me and like my best friend here looks very different than like my friend over there. um we spoke about Jack Grail earlier, and something I learned early on in his classes too was that we need to approach the gods, right? These divine currents as we would with our own relation, with personal relationships. Because why would we expect, you know, Helios to grant favor to me if I only call on him when I'm like, okay, what do I need? Okay, oh, here's this spell to Helios. I'm gonna do this. That said, if you're gonna do it, like this tech works and you can totally do it like that. But why not have a relationship with the deity prior to that, so that when you do call his name, your voice is not so foreign that he doesn't want to turn. You know what I mean? Or that current doesn't want to turn to you. So I really resonated with that on Jack's courses. And I mean, he's just such a great mentor to begin with. I think like a wealth of knowledge. I mean, just oozing off the man, and he's so poetically like spoken. you know, he makes everything sound delicious. But yeah, especially that's a big thing I've learned and have used in my own practices is if you're wanting to do something, like if you're wanting to take on a meaty rite, don't just like dive in head first, like I like to do. Maybe have a relationship with that deity first. Like, what does Helios like, or what does Hermes like, or Kate, or but whoever it is that you're wanting to establish relationship with. And what I've found is I've created this world of this other world of allies, these spiritual allies and these currents that when I am in need and in like desperate times and I have to call on something quickly, and I do, and I don't have my right next to me. So I'm saying things like in a particular order. I don't have the barbarous voice. I don't have the things. I can call upon them, and I get I feel like I get acknowledgement rather quickly that way, you know?
Yeah. Well, the part of the way I see it as well is anything that's happened before is somebody's interpretation of spirit. Anyway, like everything that's written in that book is what other people have tried and has worked for them. Uh,
Hmm.
when you've got your own relationship, you don't need a script to get their attention. You have your own bit, and they'll teach you that their own different idiosyncrasies of how they relate with you and what they can do for you. And that's one of the beautiful things about like magic compared to a lot of religions. There's no gatekeeper. Lots of people try and create a gatekeeper for themselves to disempower themselves because they're used to that as part of our culture. But when you connect with spirit, there's nothing in between, which sadly is kind of what that tent revival was trying to do. Was like you get your own connection with the Holy Spirit. You don't need a gatekeeper. Like keep the fire alive yourself. Just they walked it.
They walked it. Yeah, exactly.
uh,
Exactly. Exactly.
but with all these traditions, that doorway is there, and that's what I try and get through to students who come to me for like energy healing things or spiritual pathways. Is I- I'm I'm not the I'm not anything other than somebody who's introducing me to somebody or an energy. It's up to you to build that relationship from here. Uh, I often give examples in class of like there's two students there. I'll be like, I've introduced you today. You've heard each other's names and you've sat in a room with one another. 10 years from now, you might recognize one another if you passed each other in the street. But because you've been introduced now, if you catch up every Monday and go for a coffee, you're going to become good friends. You're going to learn how you can help each other in different bits, and you will call upon one another at different times in life because you'll be in a situation and that idea will come. Mandy can help me with this. I'll give her a call. Or I see Mandy's going through this thing. I've got a tool. I'm going to come visit her and give it. That same thing is what happens with energies and spirits that you work with, and people try and put it in too much of this box of this thing that's over there rather than bring it in here.
It's so accessible, right? Like it's so accessible, and you bring up such a potent point of, you know, I think people, a lot of people like really find comfort maybe in having the restrictions or something, but then also I find with that you're less likely to do the thing to make the connection or to actually like do the work if you're constantly like I didn't get the 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 eggshell. I didn't get whatever it was. Like you, that's what I love about like, well, with the PGM, especially is that it kind of throws all that out the window. And I get that there is some like, lashback from that as well. They can be dirty or whatever, because there's not, all um, these restrictions in place and such. But we're so close to these currents and to like the healing that you're talking about. We're so close to it, and sometimes we just need to be introduced to it. The same thing happens like within our bodies, like we're talking about, like, we since we've met each other now, we know what each other look like, we know each other's names. If I were to see you on the street, I wouldn't be like in my head, oh, there's Lance. I'd be like, hey, Lance, how's it going?
Yeah.
Like, but the same thing kind of happens in our body. We can like tune our own energies and our like working with illnesses in our bodies as well. Like I do, Apollo work, where you can have, this Apollo current like go in and scan your body. I had him do, and had that current do work with like my heart. I was having like issues with like palpitations and things, and because I had had a relationship with Apollo for years before, I didn't feel like coming to that current as a needy, like, I need this now. It was almost like that current was already there and able to just kind of like, oh yeah, I remembered. I've already got this kind of relationship. Let's work on that. I probably just went into a total tangent, didn't I?
Oh, good. That's a good tangent.
I do
it,
that.
it exemplified what we're talking about. And I find similar things like happens with like friends of friends. So like um, if if one of my mates is friends with somebody else and I don't know that person, it's going to be easier for me to connect with that person. And so uh, different traditions seem to cross over well as well, because spirit allies have their allies, and if they're like, well, you're nice with this, like Hecate Fade like did different lunar things with other lunar deities, it's going to be easy to like bridge that connection over because I've already got some of that same kind of community energy around. And uh, some people don't like the idea of crossing traditions, but it's just
I'm all
energy.
for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I cross traditions with healing. I use, Eastern and Western medicine. Like, really, what is the difference? Like, I'm going to take an Epsom salt bath, but I'm also maybe going to take an Advil, and I'm going to get a massage and chiropractic care, and I'm also going to pray to my deity. Like,
Yeah.
it's cro- crossing pantheons, crossing traditions. Those, I I find it I find it extremely helpful when you're doing your own practice. I mean, spiritual, uh, medical, magical, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Again, like PG. I mean, PGM. Going back to the PGM, like that. That's like, you see uh, Moses and like Zeus in the same. I mean,
Yes. Yes. The book is a mash bagel, everything with that.
it's exactly.
Uh, that probably brings us to something I wanted to ask you of what difference you found with that mediumship after you started getting ritualistic, when you started to include PGM sort of stuff and exploring these other magical traditions.
That's a really great question because a lot of, I mean, um, most mediums that I meet aren't spiritual in that sense. You know what I mean? They're more spiritual in like an energy sense, but they're not like practicing sorcerers. So like with my mediumship, I think it fine tuned it to even another level that I wasn't expecting. Um, for example, I do a working where I call in the serpent face god, and when I took to receive gnosis, right, and so when I call in this serpent face god, like what I've found from now incorporating that into, I think I do that probably maybe like once a month at this point, but when I do that, like it feels like it calibrates it's kind of like getting a chiropractic alignment, right? Like it kind of calibrates like all of the cells in my body to being like at 11 waiting to receive. Because as you know, with anything, when you get any sort of like repetition with something, and so if I'm doing mediumship readings, like I have my certain way that I've always done it that just kind of works. But when you do something like that, that can be like over and over and over, it can become quite uh blunt and like numb, almost like where you're not like taking it to the next like level. And I feel like with certain PGM spells that I've incorporated, they've just kind of like heightened that. And I don't know if it's because I'm looking at it from a different lens through this particular path of magic. Um, but yeah, I think it's just kind of like, I don't know, giving it a little more effervescence,
Mm,
a little more, gotten a little more angles with it, and it's nice.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
and oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go.
Oh, I think having connections or alignments with certain deities that I did not, years and years and years ago, uh, has helped as well, because we all have, our spirits around us, our spirit teams around us. But I also believe we have our own like types of like deities, or like those currents around us. And so if I'm reading for someone and I recognize a current that speaks to a certain deity, I might be able to like call that deity in to help assist. Or similar to like astrology, like when someone's astrology, oh, that makes sense. This this Aries is, of course, experiencing this because this is happening in their fifth house, and this is happening with this right now, the transits. So just know all these little things really do help supplement and create this like 3D like orb of a reading. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's great.
Did you notice when you started to explore different things more with PGM and other ritualistic sort of things that like the natural mediumship that would just happen of you seeing things going on around you, did that shift from being like more ancestor stuff to things further out from you in natural bits that would pop into your field, or that still just stayed the same?
I mean, I get the ancestors, of course. That's what always comes in first and foremost. Um, as far as seeing like deity, I don't really see deity. Feel them. I
Yeah.
definitely feel them. Akate has never shown me herself, or if I can even themself. I don't even want to. I don't even want to. We say her, but like, but it's so many things. Akate has so many things, right? What I have been, what I have experienced though, is through dreams. I noticed that deities can, I guess, reveal themselves in maybe that way. Akate through like dream has shown me like maybe her figure, but I've still never ever seen a face. What is that saying? Like you can't look upon the face of a god because you go mad, right? I I feel like there's some truth to that. But I definitely do feel them. And I know I spoke of Helios earlier. I did a good year's worth of calling in the solar initiation, the solar god, every Sunday. And I was getting so frustrated because it was like uh, 7, 8 months. I don't even know. It was like every week I was doing this. And it's really an exhausting ritual out of the PGM. It's beautiful, but it's exhausting. You do it 7 times, and I would have all my blinds up in like Southern California, and it's always sunny, and it's like we don't have air conditioning, like central air in our apartment. Like it's like hot and just blazing sun early in the morning, and I'm doing this right 7 times, and I feel like I'm just dying of thirst, like I've walked through like a desert, and I don't think that that wasn't what I was supposed to. I mean, I think that was part of it, but I never felt his face turn toward me until it was like, I don't know, 6, whatever it was. And then there was one time I was like, oh my gosh, like I felt so, I don't even know what it was. I felt so certain he had finally was like, what is this girl bugging me for? And what does she really want? And then looked at me, like was able to like turn toward me And I had nothing for him because I had gone through the motions so long and for so often, that when I finally felt him turn, I was like, I don't know what I'm asking for anymore. I don't even, I had just gotten in the habit of doing it. It was part of my ritual because we're all ritual beings, right? Like, so all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh. And I thanked him for that feeling. But I remember like every week after that, I was like, he's not going to look back at me because I didn't have anything for him when he finally did turn. Like, what does she want? I don't know. Just been doing it for so long. Figured it would figure itself out. But no, yeah.
Mm. Since we're coming into spooky season as Halloween soon, and people have this story about like the veil being thin then, and that's the time for this sort of stuff. Uh, what's your view on this being the time and it always being the time?
It is always the time. The veil is always thin. It is thin, thin, thin. You can penetrate it. You can get it. You can get the messages. What is unique about this time, and the reason people, I feel like, say it is thin, because all eyes are toward it, right? It's Halloween, it's Samhain, it's the Day of the Dead, it's all souls. That like there's so much attention um, toward it right now, and so with like the whole mass, like typically, like us folks that like to work with spirits, we know that the veil is thin, and maybe there are aspects of like certain seasons that make it feel a little more conducive to communing with spirit. um it's always thin,
Mm.
but right now people's attentions are like, it's ghosts, it's Halloween, it's Samhain, it's we do this spooky things, and I'm grateful for that because I think it does afford people who um have not maybe expressed their emotions about a past loved one year round, maybe blocked, and like around this time of year, they kind of loosen up a little bit. And they're like, yeah, you know what? Maybe I will put a picture up of my grandmother or my grandfather or the uncle, whatever, whoever it was, my daughter, my son. And um, I, I'm grateful that people do open themselves up to it, because I think every time they do, even just a little bit, maybe they put that picture back after Halloween, but maybe next year it's out a little bit longer, and I feel like that connection starts to strengthen and lengthen. But the veil is always thin.
Yes.
Reach out to your past loved ones. They are always there. I promise you, whether you know it or not, they're there.
Yes. I think it's a bit of a shame that people only put that attention there when it's popular, and it's cool because like you look at so many cultures around the world, like ancestral practices are like the norm. And as a Western culture, we've like just destroyed it over the last couple of 100 years. And that's a couple 100 years is like a drop in the ocean of like time that we've been around of what we've been doing. So there's there's a lot of good to be had from that, not just for you, but like for them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and when I said grateful, I didn't mean like grateful, like come to me. So
Yes.
like I meant like I'm just grateful that people are having those connections with with spirit. They open themselves up to feeling it. Like my sister, who I said she has gifts, and I've seen her use them, but she really does kind of just shy away from it. Um, Her husband, my brother-in-law, passed a few years ago, and she will, randomly like text me like, there's this type of bird is like on my fence, like is that a sign? And I always want to tell people, if you're questioning if something is a sign, chances are it's a sign, because you see how many birds all day every day, right? And then there's the one that catches your eye, that's typically a sign, and let's say it's in the middle of winter and this particular bird you don't usually see around this part of like the globe during winter season, yet it's there. You know what I mean? Like these things are signs. Um, so like I I feel like when one like starts to open themselves up to the plethora of things out there that is constantly reminding us that we are not alone in in our space, and that we have loved ones still around us. And I do want to say, as a person of trauma, I do know this, that those actions that people had on earth, they are not living in that same realm anymore. So, that is a whole other thing of working through that, which I am still doing with my own. But and I never, I never push that on people to try to like resolve, because as someone of of that myself, I am, I don't have a strong relationship with that particular spirit, for good reason. But uh, just so you know, if you are someone that does want to work and to heal that within, they are not the same spirit that was here. So they have ascended. Hopefully, they have. Uh, you're, yeah, that gets a hard one. That's a hard one to talk about and work through. But I even try to tell it to myself all the time. It's not the same. It's not the same. They are not the same.
No, one of my other mates who's a medium, he says quite often, like as soon as they're on the other side, they're like, "Ooh, I was a dick. Oh shit.
Yep.
Why did I do that?" And
Yep.
experiences I've had with hypnotherapy of like having past life things come through with people, of seeing just how different people can be within like different streams of their soul's experience. It's like, well, yeah, your soul's just trying to get a gamut of human experience, and sometimes it's got to be an asshole within that. It's not.
Yeah.
That's what it always is. It's just that's what it was then. Just like some days, I'm sure you get up and you're a right bitch for the day. I've had days I've
Sometimes.
been an asshole.
Sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
And other times you're probably a princess. But we have that within our own life. You've got to think of it as that whole spectrum of a soul's experience is going to be like that. Some days you've got to get up on the wrong side of the bed, and do things that you need to learn from. I've learned some
Yeah.
amazing things from my mistakes. uh,
Is it
Imagine on a
right? I
soul
mean,
level.
imagine on a soul level and I get, more times than not, uh, a, a past loved one is asking, they're saying they're sorry, for something, and like, I'm sorry that I hurt you in this way, or I'm sorry that this was, the experience. And then sometimes I get like my mother wasn't a peach either, like this is like a kind of a line, like a learned behavior. Sometimes it's whatever it is, it's always hard to face, it's always hard to communicate, but the healing is there if you are seeking it.
Mm. So how does this sort of stuff play for you with you having to confront this sort of stuff all the time, because the amount of people that come for readings are usually dealing with something heavy in the background. Like people more often than not don't go for a reading when everything's peachy. That fine line between how that triggers you and how you deliver bad news as well.
So I've been very fortunate in how I'm able to read. Like when uh I sit with my guides prior to a reading. So if someone were to book, let's say, about like an hour or so out, I will sit down with my guides. I ask for Akate to come in. She's my little bouncer. A
Yeah.
psychopath. I've incorporated that's how I should have answered that question. How is the PG how is like incorporating like yes, she is my bouncer. I have her kind of hold the line so that one spirit can come forth at a time so I don't get overwhelmed. Um, and I also ask for protection so that I am not giving any I'm not how do I say this? Um my own personal experience is not able to bleed into that. So I get kind of myself gets kind of cupped off, and then I can deliver the messages like through spirit as pure as I can, as pure as it humanly can, with that extra protection that I have over me. um, Usually after a reading that is of some sort of triggering uh, element to if it has a triggering element to it, after I've released and cleansed, I will sometimes have those emotions. And I said I go to therapy. I see a spiritual advisor as well. You know what I mean? Like we are all doing our own healing, and I'm constantly uh working with my guides, with my primary goddess, which is Hekate, my therapist, my spiritual guides here on earth as well. Um, but I mean, Azostos, that epithet of Akate, that was what really drew me to work solely, or not solely, closely with that epithet, because it is of an unbinding of that's of the releasing of like those shackles. And I teach this stuff, I write the stuff, and I practice it. And it's not something that you do and it's gone. It is something that we maintain it, right? We maintain our oral care by brushing our teeth a few times a day, right? So I maintain that aspect of myself through working with Hekate Zostos, and being able to release when I start to feel like I'm getting like bound back into like little girl Mandy. Um, yeah.
That's good. Uh, and with, I've been curious about. I haven't looked into your class much of oracular mediumship, but the gist I got from it is you're blending mediumship with like the traditional oracle processes. Uh,
Yes.
am I right? Am I wrong?
Yes, you're
Could you
right.
tell me about it? Because I liked the idea of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the oracular mediumship, a direct line to the divine. It's an 8-week course where we explore the ancient oracles and their developed discipline, and we kind of translate it into modern mediumship. And I wanted to create this course because it became like an accessible way, I feel like, to teach the foundations of mediumship through the lens of the ancient oracles. Because when people think of mediumship, they often picture like messages from the dead, but also oracles remind us that there's bigger things that even, or not bigger things, but like different things than that, right? So it's about cultivating a disciplined relationship with divine intelligence itself. Um, so like we go through uh eight different oracles, and we end on the Necromantion and talk about the oracle of the dead. So after being able to like develop foundations and like learning how to like listen to the self and to the others, the signs, purification, boundaries, all the things, then we end on the Oracle of the Dead, and we connect with past. We scan our bodies to be able to start to learn how to connect with past loved ones. Um, so yeah, it honestly, it just like I never knew I would teach it in this way. I'd always like taught mediumship just through the foundations, but I was like, you know what? I think it might be a little more accessible if I include like the oracles. Like that to me, that was interesting. And so I was like, I'm going to explore this. And then it just became this thing. And now I'm writing a book as well as an accompaniment to it. So, uh, yeah, if anyone is interested in the oracular mediumship course, it's 8 weeks. It is work at your own pace. the classes are released weekly. And there is a Facebook group that I have, and over on my Patreon, a chat as well. So if you have any questions, and I leave little goodies there once a week still. Um, Joining today, joining next year, whatever it is, it will be released weekly. So it's not like a lump of like, here's 8 weeks, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is like overwhelming. Go at it at your own pace, and have fun with it.
That's
So
cool. It also
yeah.
sounds like with working with this stuff, sometimes your ideas are not your own. That
Yeah.
you get influenced by what you're working with. Of yeah, I'm going to do this thing. No, this will be a better way of doing it, Mandy. Try this.
It's spirit's funny that way, right? Like how we get we'll start to, I mean, I will start to write something, and then, well, okay, going with the Akate Zostos lecture, like I'm still working on this book with that, but like I was writing this particular aspect of it, and um, things kept getting like turned and turned and turned and like moving toward a different way. I was like, no, I want to focus on it this way. And it kept like going another way. I was like, okay, maybe that is Akate saying to focus on it for this, for who knows why at the time, but then it ended up being what it is, and I'm glad it is. So
And that's
spirit will take the reins sometimes.
it is. It's I think that ties back to like where we nearly started of that you build that relationship with them. So you're not necessarily calling somebody in, and if you're friends with them and they say you need help with something, they come and tap your shoulder. Oh, don't go that way. Do this. Try that. And it's not
Exactly.
always that blatantly obvious thing like it pops up in ritual and stuff. It's subtle feelings that just happen because energy is around you now.
Exactly.
Um, that's part of what I like about this world is you aim for something, but then you get things that you didn't ask for just because you've had the right intentions when you've turned up at other times.
Yeah. Yeah. Case in point, being at that crossroad, right? And you come to that crossroad, and depending on how you meet yourself at that crossroad, who knows the goodies that you will reap from the path that you choose to take then. And sometimes, like, as we know, with working with Akate or other goddesses or deity, sometimes the path isn't to go to the next thing. Sometimes the path is to kind of go back where you came from, because maybe there was something that you missed. And there's no shame in that. There's no shame in that. We all get to where we're going to go in due time. And I always remind myself of that too, because I've got some Capricorn placement, and I've got an Aries placement, and they're like, you're getting here, we're going to do it this way. And sometimes life is like, no, you're not. You're going to go there when I tell you to.
Yes, those detours can be wonderful. The accepting them isn't always.
Accepting it, exactly.
And so, with the pathways you've been through life now, what's one of the crossroads you feel you're at now? Where do you think you've got some choices to move with what you're planning to do?
I think the writing is next. I have my MFA in writing, and I have been so. I mean, I'm 51. I'm very far removed from when I was out of grad school. That has been a very long time from now. And writing has always been something that I have loved, and it feels like a treat to be able to do it. Yet because of circumstances, have not been able to indulge in it as much as I would have liked to. I was a musician for a very long time, retired musician now. So I think my writing of songs and lyrics really helped scratch that itch. And now through like my lectures and and classes, that's kind of like started to kind of pry back open that clamshell. And now, like with the oracular mediumship book, that is it's happening now. Will be released. I think we've got it set at sometime in March, right after Mercury retrograde, and that will also be on Miskatonic books if anyone's interested. As are the courses. Go
Cool.
check them out if you want to.
So if people have been listening along and they feel they're at a crossroads and would like to like get a GPS update, where can they contact you for working out what path might be the easier path for them to go down?
Yes, I am super easy to find on all socials at Wilde Medium. My website is wildemedium.com. Wilde is spelled with an E, so WILDE medium. And Patreon at Wilde Medium, all the things. You can just Google it and my pink-haired self will pop up.
Easy. I'll have the links in the show notes, and when you put the book out, I'll update the show notes so it'll be in there. So if you're listening years from now, it's there. Go find it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share before we say goodbye to everybody?
I want to share that magic is doable for everyone. Mediumship is doable for everyone. Connecting with spirits is accessible and it's there. And please do it. Don't just read about it. Get out and do it. It's enlightening. It's enthralling. All the things. Something I know we've talked about the PGM before. Check out Jack Grail's class as well. But this book right here is just full of amazing tech, right? I call it Lego magic because you can literally take pieces and just splatter them wherever you want to create your own thing. To parrot Jack Grail, actually, magic is more art than science, and it's such a creative way to go about your praxis. If you want to connect with a certain deity, have some just fuck around with it. It's fun. What was that a sign of? What do you think? I had my phone in there as a bookmark, and shame on me. It's probably like, get this tech. You said tech. Get this tech out of here.
I like that quote from Jax. I don't think I've done more arts and crafts in my life since I started doing magic stuff. Like the literal actual craft.
It's so literally. I mean, I've got more clay baboons behind me than I know to do with that, and I am not an artiste by any means like that. So do the magic. Don't just read about it. Do the magic. You might just find a new version of yourself that is exciting. And if you don't, try again. You might find another one.
Exactly. Well, thanks for coming on for a chat. I've had a lovely time.
Likewise. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode and perhaps learned something new. If you did, I'd love for you to subscribe or drop a review on whatever favourite podcast you have, or if you've been enjoying the video versions on YouTube or Facebook, do it there. If something really did click home for you with this episode, perhaps it could benefit one of your friends or family. If so, it'd really help if you shared this on your social medias. Until next time, you've been listening to Akasha Talks with Lance Baker.